compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
that this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Well, it's time for us to look at issues from very deep perspective. Welcome to the program, The Desk on Global Television. My name is Anthony Omodu. Welcome to the 13th day of November 2024. You're about to witness a very intense analysis of a big talking point from the global perspective and also on the national level. We'll be looking at issues making the rounds, just to let you in on some of the trending stories before we put our searchlight on 2 or 3 key issues. One of them obviously being the President Tinubu's tax reforms. We'll be looking at it in a deep perspective. We'll also be putting our searchlight on what's playing out in Equatorial Guinea. Now the government has decided to prosecute the man in the eye of the storm. So we'll be looking at what this would mean eventually. But just to let you know some trending stories which we'll be gliding through. I'm beginning from England. We've got the story concerning the fact that reports has come that the independent marking review had discovered, yes, talking about the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, has resigned. That's the big story that broke. It says that this comes after the independent marking review discovered that the Church of England covered up sexual abuse by a barrister following calls for his resignation. Welby said the report exposed the long-maintained conspiracy of silence about the heinous abuses of John Smith. According to Welby, he believed wrongly that an appropriate resolution would follow when he was told in 2013 that Smith had been reported to the police. In a statement, Welby said, having sought the gracious permission of His Majesty the King, he decided to resign as Archbishop of Canterbury. The independent marking review into the John Smith inquiry QC's abuse of children and young men was published last week, and that has led to the resignation. The report concluded that he might have been brought to justice had Mr. Welby formally reported it to the police a decade ago. Smith died aged 75 in Cape Town in 2018 while under investigation by the Hemisphere Police. All right, just to welcome my guest who is in the live studios, we've got in the person, the CEO and founder of the Global Leadership Commission, and the person of Benjamin Alika is in the live studios to help us look at these issues. Thank you for making it to the live studios.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Tori. It's a pleasure being here again.
All right, let's begin from the UK, where this is, interestingly, this is the period where it seems sex scandal is everywhere you look. Equatorial Guinea, now we're talking about the Church of England, a very revered, religious, entity. But looking at the fact that the Archbishop had to resign, the accusation that if he had reported John Smith a decade ago, probably justice would have been served.
Yeah.
Do you think resignation is the best way forward? Does it reduce the damage already done?
No, definitely it will not. The same way it would. The damage is the damage, the effects on the victims. I watched some of them yesterday, briefly, and it's tragic. And coming from a religious institution that is supposed to have been the beacon of light for a nation, conscience of society, to have allowed such a persona, to be in that system first and foremost, the smart guy, and then to have allowed such abuses to have taken place for such period of time. These are young people, these are children who are most vulnerable, who are supposed to, or who thought that they were protected, but more importantly, that an environment where they are meant to grow spiritually, morally, and then they are now subject to such heinous abuses. But it was physical, it was spiritual, it was sexual, it was psychological, and then go further, that the institution themselves, the leadership, was aware and did nothing for such long period of time. I think is a bit difficult to comprehend, really, because you can't find the rationale for such conspiracy of silence as is being now noted, because that's the whole issue. Now, the crime committed by Smile is bad enough, but that the silence and the refusal of the church to respond.
But the church made, the Archbishop said something like he thought that was already reported to the police, and he felt justice would have been served.
Really? Now, first and foremost, for such long period of time, okay, so does the church not have an internal machinery for disciplining such a person, for letting out justice even to the victims in terms of even compensation, or helping them to even recover? There was no such thing done by the church for that long period of time. So that is the issue. And then coming to your question about whether the resignation of the Archbishop, in any way will serve any, does it assuage for what had happened or serve any purpose? Well, yes and no. First, like I said, it does not, will never be able to, remedy the damage that had been done. But at least for sake of justice, that at least there's a sense that, somebody has been, at least being relieved of his position, at least is a starting point for penalization of that system that permitted it. But I don't think it should also stop there. In as much as it is okay to pardon people, but I think there must be some form of deterrence that should be imposed, so that so that society's sense of sanity, decency, right, and justice can be also served and upheld. Because the impunity that goes on unpunished or penalized, has a way of truly encouraging, more and more of such actions. I think the time for society to rise, to begin to deal with issues, like you said, because looking at against the backdrop of what happened in Equatorial Guinea, right? So you see that we are almost an endangered people morally, right? Because at least the height of impunity in terms of taking advantage of people, the vulnerable and the rest of them, I think it's something that is worrisome. But then also the moral devaluation of society, it's an existential threat to our future.
All right, well said there. Let's quickly move on to the next talking point. We're looking at natural resources. Niger invites Russian firms to exploit uranium. That's the talking point, and we're looking at what this might mean, because the fact that the Niger Republic wants Russian firms to invest in uranium and other natural resources production. Its mining minister said on Wednesday amid the ongoing dispute with former colonial master French nuclear group Orano halted uranium output in Niger last month as relations soared with the military junta that seized power in July 2023. This issue of Niger, finally, can we say now we know why Niger, Burkina Faso, and other West African countries agreed or wanted to pull out from the ECOWAS bloc? And is it right to say it was instigated by Russia? Now that finally we're beginning to see Russia moving when France was booted out.
Well, we don't have the evidence to suggest that, as it were. I think it's a question of one thing leading to another. But first, let's even, for me, it is one of those gladdening developments in the African continent when these nations, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, had begun to rise up, to take ownership of their destinies as sovereign nations. We saw for years the ravaged colonization and neo-colonial imperialism and domination of these nations, exploitation of these nations by France, that was quite, condemnable. The exploitation of their natural resources. And in fact, it was said that while they continue to mine those uraniums and other resources that powers French electricity, right? Niger, over 80% to 85%, has no electricity, as it were. Now, we also know how much they were paying to that state. I can't remember how much, okay, for those long period of time. And even at that, what was being paid was not given to them directly, okay? So, first, it was a welcome development that the nation was able to rise to assert its sovereignty, right?
But pulling out of the ECOWAS bloc.
Well, that's a different thing. That's a different thing.
But was it to the benefit of the region?
It's not to the benefit of the region, definitely, but also you look at the morals of the trajectory of what happened within that period of time. All right. Now, personally, I expected Nigeria to have played the big brother role. Now, realizing that these guys were fighting for their lives, it was an existential battle, as it were. Okay. Our approach to the situation possibly have been different. Okay, but we understand how ECOWAS responded, right? From the high-handed position, as it were. So for me, it is a welcome development. And today, there are reports of the progress that the nation is making. Now, for Russia, whether it is the best option for Niger and for Africa as a whole is a different ballgame. And I wouldn't say possibly it is, okay? Because we live in a world, in a contested planet where it is self-interest, okay? So I'm not looking to Russia as a big brother, right? That will possibly serve the best interest of Niger, but possibly also at least they invited them, okay? And there must be at least some level of agreement of mutual benefit and respect, okay, between the two nations, as it were. So for them, it was so much about the the decision between the devil and the deep sea, okay. So but for now, I think he's paying them.
All right, quickly as we move on to the next talking point, before we talk about the two main issues, which hopefully in the next 20 minutes we'll be focusing on squarely, will be on the tax reforms and also the Equatorial Guinea prosecution. We'll look at that in deep perspective while we glide through these ones. All right, let's move on to the next quick talking point. We're looking at the education sector, where the academic staff of universities raised an alarm over the plot to sabotage the interest of public universities in the country. ASU's national president, in the person of Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, at an event marking the 2024 ASU's Heroes Day in Abuja, also accused the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund of working relentlessly to destroy Nigeria's public education system. The union lamented the delay in the renegotiation of its 2009 agreement with the federal government, noting that despite several memorandum of understanding and the memorandum of action, the ASU FGN 2009 agreement was yet to be renegotiated and finalized. Do you think ASU seem to be blaming everybody but themselves? Why now it's the World Bank and the IMF that is being accused of trying to destroy Nigerian universities? Do you think they're playing to the gallery?
Well, I don't know. It's I'm surprised. I mean, to hear this. Well, maybe surprise will not be the best of words to use. However, it's surprising in the sense that this is a very, very this is a major, I mean, I'm looking for a best word for this. For the ASU leadership to come up with this kind of allegation, now it is a very big one. Now, but I think it's not enough, because I mean, what we're dealing with here is a high-level state challenge. Okay, so whether this is the best way to have channel this discussion is what I mean is debatable, right? Now also I think is also, I don't know if the further explanation given in terms of specifics on how World Bank and IMF is undermining Nigeria's education, but I think it would have been, I think it's important that the ASU, if they have to take this step already, to accuse the international global, the global financial institution, the government institution, of such allegation, then I think we have the Nigerians have right to know. All right, I think it's their responsibility to disclose what the issues are. That's one. Then to round up the question itself, whether they tend to be blaming everybody themselves. I think I also agree with that. Yeah, because somehow ASU seem to have been more engaged and involved in combat with the federal government, over remunerations, and then sometimes also the responsibility of government to the public schools, to the universities, all right, as it were. But if you look at the Nigerian educational sector, especially the public sector, there's so much, not much to write home about, truly. Yeah, both from the ASU and the federal government, because our educational sector is in deep crisis. For the last 10 years, it's a record that barely almost 75% Nigerian graduates coming out of these universities are unemployable. You understand? We know how the standard has fallen, not even so much because of funding, but because of the attitude, of the lecturers and ASU themselves. Okay, yeah, many of them, there are a lot of good people, in universities, doing their best, but truly and indeed, the commercialization, of studies by the lecturers themselves, I mean, it's something that has to be addressed. I tell you the truth.
All right, quickly as we run into the oil and gas sector, where the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria has announced the premium motor spirit price will be slashed by 15 naira upon lifting Dangote petrol directly. The national president of IPMAN, Abubakar Mai Gandi, disclosed this during an interview with a media outfit. This comes as Mai Gandi revealed that Dangote Refinery has agreed to sell petrol to its members at a price of template of 940 naira and 990 naira per litre for depots and trucks. Is this the kind of margin we expected? 15 naira margin as a reduction. Is this going to translate to Nigerians not still going through hell trying to get natural resources that resides in their own country?
I really wouldn't want to comment on this, but let me just say one thing. You see, the truth about this is, you know, we're joking with the life of Nigerians and the destiny of this nation for self-interest. You see, this is what we're experiencing is the spirit of free market economy, right? Where greed and profiteering and self-interest rules. That is what it's all about.
So the interest of the community.
It's not the interest of the nation, as it were. Because if, I mean, even for by way of good governance and policy decision, why are we approaching this issue, you know, with this, you know, lackadaisical approach? It's not so much of insensitivity. First and foremost, it was difficult for NNPC to relinquish, you know, access to the marketers to directly, you know, lift a product from the refinery, I mean, Dangote refinery to start with. We know the food dragging that took place and the confusion. All right. We also know how that the whole the pricing, okay, was shrouded in mystery, saying, "Oh, we bought at this price." Dangote coming out to say, "No, that's not what we sold to you." Do you understand? So I'm not seeing that sector, you know, really putting the interest of Nigerians first. That's not what the point is. You know, this is about, you know, their own business interest. And 15 naira, I don't want to talk about, because it's I mean, for me, it's insulting, really. Like you said, given what Nigerians are going through right now. You know, I may not understand the economics behind it, you know, but the truth is that government, for me, is to be blamed, because we ought to have a more holistic approach, you know, to dealing with the issue of petroleum in this country in terms of supply and in terms of how it affects the nation.
Very sad commentary there. Let's move on to the next one. Is insecurity report where it says over 971 Nigerians were abducted in October 2024. Jesus. That's the big news there. That no fewer than 971 Nigerians were abducted across the country in October 2024. The revelation is coming amid the emergence of a new terror group, Lakurawa, in the northwestern part of the country. The data is contained in the October 2024 Nigerian Security Report by Beacon Security and Intelligence body, and says the Security Risk Management and Intelligence Consulting Company made available these to newsmen. The report said there is a deteriorating of security metrics and incidents, abductions and fatalities in the country, warning that the rising numbers suggest that 2024 was likely to be the worst year in security performance in about a decade. How scary is this? And do you think the government agrees or are coming to terms with the rising insecurity in the country? And would you say that this is a pointer that the service chiefs have done woefully?
Well, maybe that is too harsh. Generalized, harsh statement. Everything to do with Nigeria, you know, is in such a state that seem to defy logic, right? Yeah, defy logic. Now, 971 of our citizens abducted, not the ones killed. And then you're saying that is within 1 month, not the whole year.
Just last month.
One of the primary responsibility of the state is to ensure the security and protection of lives of citizens. Now, when a state fails in that direction, now it is one of the sad signs that that nation is heading towards a failed state situation. Now, I will say this for the Nigerian Army, especially for the other ranks who are out there. Many of them are dying every day. They are paying high prices for this. Now, why we're not decisive enough in responding to this challenge is what, like I said, mangoes all logic, all right, defies all logic. Now, because nobody will tell Nigerians that these are not organized army, right, of a sovereign nation coming against us. Now, these are terrorist groups, okay? Now, I don't know what their numbers are. They couldn't outnumber our soldiers. So, like we always say, that this is a matter of, not just even political will. This is so much about national will. You get it? Because that is where I always want to look at. There is something wrong in our national formation, all right, and psyche. This is a national challenge. It's not just a leadership challenge. It's a national challenge. One American was abducted or kidnapped in this country. We heard how the Americans came in, breached all protocols, military protocols, and went and rescued the citizen and took him up. Just one, all the way from the United States. And we're talking about 971 in a nation. You see, when a nation fails to secure its borders and protect its citizens and and properties, it speaks volume, because one of the primary determination of a nation state is the capacity of the state to respond to its challenges. Once a nation begins to fail or have the capacity to respond to its challenges, then that is where the worry must come. But I believe that this president, this government are working hard, and I believe that they must have some planning, some strategy, some program they are putting together to respond to this. I want to believe so, because if it's business as usual, then it is not a good scenario.
Right, very sad commentary. All right, we've got the person of Jeffrey Abidoye, who is joining us via Zoom to join the conversation, and we hope he can join us so that we get his take on some of the issues we're discussing already. So hopefully we'll be getting Jeffrey Abidoye join us via Zoom. Okay, let's take this last talking point before we go for a quick break and return to focus on the Equatorial Guinea issue and the tax reforms. It's been said the next talking point has to do with the fact that the governor of Edo State, Monday Okpeholo, who was sworn in yesterday, is now making a move to probe the previous administration, and the fact that if we take into consideration the fact that the outgone governor was not also invited for the handover, and the fact that there was accusations of borrowing 5 billion naira for the inauguration, do you think he's in a good place to start the probe already?
Well, in principle, it's a matter of semantics now. Now, in principle, if an incoming government feels that or have reason to believe that the predecessor had fallen foul of the law in terms of misappropriation of funds, and gives that indication that likely they're going to conduct a probe or investigation, well, I don't think it is wrong, especially if there's a basis. Now, actually, let's even as a matter of principle, really, because it has become a norm that governments a new government comes in, whether the federal or state level, and then they carry on and ignore the improprieties of the past. Yeah, and these guys get away, especially when it is of the same party. Do you understand that? Yeah, and nobody says anything about it. And this is a nation where we know, what the level of misappropriation, corruption, and looting that is carrying on, especially since this last democratic experiment in Nigeria. So I think it will be a good precedent, really, if we begin to have a position like this to say, look, we cannot allow, wrongdoings, especially in the area of mismanagement of public funds, all right, to be, allowed to just go attended to. That should becomes the standard. Now, in the case of, in this present case, we know, the rift between Obaseki and not just Opelo, what's his name? Oshomole, all right, and also his former deputy, all right. Yeah, okay. We've seen the squabble between them. So one wouldn't be surprised. So in terms of political motivation, we can see that this is going for his, Obaseki's flesh, really. Yeah. So that's it.
All right. Let's go for a quick break. When we return from this break, we'll be focusing on two key issues, talking about the president's tax reforms and the prosecution of the man in the eye of the storm in Equatorial Guinea. This will be the two main talking points we'll be looking at when we return from this break. And hopefully, Jeffrey Abidoye will be joining us via Zoom to help the conversation broaden. Stay with us. Is the desk on Global Television.
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. Because
that this country gets it right.
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Welcome back from the break. Is still the desk, and it's now time for us to focus on two key issues which I'll be looking at in the remaining course of the time. We'll be looking at the president's tax reforms that has caused lots of debate across the 6 geopolitical zone, and also we'll be looking at the equatorial prosecution of the man in the eye of the storm. All right, let's begin with the tax reforms. Let's look at tax usually are meant for key reasons to help the government generate revenue and also help the employed back into the system as a way of providing basic amenities for the citizenry. But let's look at this, the objective of this recent tax reforms being proposed by Mr. President. Why is it causing a lot of issues? And for you, what would you say this is the objective and the high point of this particular reform that seemed not to go down with the northern part of the country?
There's a lot of questions in one. But okay, let's...
Because the objective and the high point.
Let's...
The two things that have made the north comfortable with this tax. So
I think the first point, why is it that the bill is being greeted by this level of antagonism and resistance, actually? Now, I think that boils down to the timing. First, that's the first thing I'm going to say. Okay. The timing of the bill. That's the first thing. Timing in the sense that the last 1 year has been a harrowing one for Nigerians economically and socially.
Okay.
Now, Nigerians have been so traumatized. The removal of petrol subsidy, the hiking in the price of petrol that has continued to, soar, then that of power and other social amenities and social services, right, has led Nigerians to the place where their income has become so devalued as a result of the inflation that attended to all of the government decisions or policy decisions that I've mentioned. Now, the naira has lost so much value that the purchasing power of the people has so diminished. You get it? It's plain. We're all faced with it today. Businesses are closing down, all right? And the situation is not improving. There is no hope really for the average Nigerian. Okay, it's going to get better. So for me to now introduce taxation, because the word itself, taxation, does not in any way suggest that is a comfort for Nigerians, as it were. Yeah, so naturally, the reaction is what would have been expected. Now, possibly, the government would have been more sensitive and mindful. Because, NSAS, what's it called? NSAS have ended bad governance, right?
Yeah.
Has just ended. And the people cried out. They were hungry. This is a nation where, before this government came in, the report, 2018 World Bank report showed that 87 million Nigerians are already in abject poverty. From that 2018 to 2023, that has risen to about 125 million people in abject poverty, and we're just 200. So when we have such high level of poverty in the nation, and we're still talking about taxation, and then again, seeing that we are, what we Nigerians are faced with is not even just that I will use the word quite insensitive, all right? Hiking prices of the most essential products, because these are the things that are the lifeline of the people and the economy. Now, these guys literally live from hand to mouth. Okay, so we have no capacity to create wealth and to leverage on whatever it is. We don't even have a system that delivers whatever palliative the government is dealing with. So the situation is still like that. Okay, so that is the first thing. Second thing is for the North particularly. Okay, well, not only the North. I would remember that even the Federal Executive Council also, advised the president to hold on to the bill, and which they are not apparently. Now, then the northern aspect of it. The northern aspect of it has to do with, I believe, there could be more, but at least the one that comes to mind
they believe
is the issue.
Channel funds show Lagos State.
Yeah, well, not just Lagos State. Now, let's look at the issue really. The issue has to do with the first one that, like I said, I can pinpoint, has to do with the VAT, the politics of VAT fund. Okay, now the government is saying, because over the years, most of the states, especially from the south, okay, it has been an issue that it is not fair and equitable the structure of distribution of the money that comes from VAT. So because the existing law says 20% goes to derivation. In other words, those who produce the VAT, more of the VAT, so gets 20%. Now, 50% is on the basis of equality, and then 30% on the basis of population. All right, so and they are saying that is not equitable. All right, and then also the issue of the fact that you say you don't consume most of the products that produces the VAT, and then we are getting, you know, such huge volume of it, you know. So now I think this government wanted to set things right in that direction. One of the issues that, okay, they are saying I think 60% going out to derivation. Now they now try to also qualify derivation. I hope I'm correct with my figures. All right, so I'm not an economist, but at least the one I could I've been able to browse and at least get myself educated so far. Now the derivation should have a bigger share of the VAT. And this time around, derivation will no longer be simply, the government is actually being smart here. But okay, it's not so much about where the goods are produced,
okay,
all right, but where it is consumed. So that now becomes the basis of derivation. So if, for instance, goods are produced in Lagos and more of it is consumed in Kano, then Kano should get a major share of the VAT. You understand? Because that's where the spending comes from. All right. So, and that is one of them. The other side of it is that the government is saying there is no need for duplicity of consumption rate. Okay. Taxation, where the state levies, okay, and then the federal government also levies. Yeah. So let's merge the tax administration or system, of collection and then administration of it, distribution of it, together, all right, so that we can be more efficient and then more equitable, and to make it life easier for the Nigerian person. Okay, I mean, that is the picture the government has painted in as a part of the reforms. Okay, so but like I said, it's an issue of timing, and then the issue of the perception, of fear that some people will be deprived, all right, of the funds. But again, what I don't like is the way it's being politicized. All right, now there is legislative procedure for handling bills that come from the presidency to the National Assembly. So if the bill is presented, first it starts with presentation, okay, and then the National Assembly now goes into reading process, all right, now to committee process and the rest of them. And then the National Assembly has so much powers, all right, to decide whether to vary, all right, to reject or to correct, whatever it is. Okay, so yeah, whatever bill that is proposed to the House. All right, so now, but to say you are rejecting it in total, I think that is not too good, especially in a democratic system of government, and where you have checks and balances and all of that. So I think they should look into that, because there are some aspects, good aspects, that for this time we can discuss that.
Let's just have Abidoye, talking about Jeffrey Abidoye, the global president of Rebuild Nigeria 360, quickly join us via Zoom. Let's just get his take time, not our friend, but this is what happens when you're having lots of fun and lots of things to talk about. Good evening, Abidoye. Thank you for joining us, and sorry for keeping you so long a time.
Wow.
Well, thank you for having me, Anthony. Good evening, Nigeria.
Let him check his
Hello.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for waiting this long. Let's get your take as regards. We were talking the tax reform bills, and let's just quickly get your take. What you think is the reason why we're having so much heated debate as regards this tax reform bill?
Well, thank you so much. The only constant in life itself is change. As a people, as a state, and as a country going somewhere, we must be ready to embrace change, particularly positive change that can record and help us to make measurable impact in the life of our people. For a country like Nigeria to be transformed, we need to go through reformation. The proposed tax reform system by Bola Ahmed Tinubu presidency is coming from somewhere. Bola Ahmed Tinubu started in 1999 alongside with other 35 states in this country on May 29, 1999. Each of those states inherited varying degrees of assets and liability. He met IGR in Lagos State at the realm of about 650-700 million annually. Lagos is not one of those 9 Niger Delta states that is deriving oil money every month. How was he able to do it? It is through equitable, fair, and just tax system. And that was why today, from 700 million or less than that then, Lagos is raking in the realm of 50 to 53 billion tax every month. The records are there for anybody to see. And that's why the only states in Nigeria today that you can actually place your hand to touch, to feel, to see reform, policy sustainable, to see transformation, to measure impact in real terms and not just by a figment of imagination. It is Lagos. So if the tax reform system is working perfectly in Lagos, corporate organizations are being taxed and they are paying as at when due, pay as you earn, people are being paid, are being taxed and they are getting value for their money. People who are selling korobo in the market or what have you are paying tax no matter how small they are, and people are having value for their money. There is no key sector of national life when it comes to measuring, when it comes to objective, constructive appraisal of government policy that is touching life.
Why do you think it's been opposed? Quickly, why do you think it's been opposed?
Those who are opposing are the people which will be asking questions. They should bury themselves in shame. When we were in primary school, we used to hear about this taxation that is fair, that is just. My question is this: is the tax system working in the northern part of the country? The answer is no. Why is it that the level of poverty in the country today is highest in the north? Because people are not being taxed. Why is it that we're having cow roaming on the streets and people are not paying per head for those tax? For those cows. It is a private business that need to pay. The billionaire, the millionaire who are having 200 estate, 500 houses within an estate in this country, are they paying tax? Our rich men, are they paying tax? People who have 5, 6, 7 Rolls Royce and the most expensive cars, are they paying tax? In developed clime, where there's sanity, where there's dignity, where there's decency, where there's decorum, the system doesn't care whether you want to buy your house or build your house in the moon. They don't care whether you go every day you want to be changing your Rolls Royce, as you are buying it because they have the database of everybody. From the point of purchase straight to your house, they know the record shows that you have just purchased the latest Rolls Royce. It will show that you will pay a tax commensurate to your standard of living and the type of life we are living. People are making our society, people are making from the commonwealth of Nigeria to the detriment of the real citizens of Nigeria, the poor, the downtrodden, the forsaken and the forgotten. They are not paying tax. They are taking from us, they are rubbing it on our faces, and they are not paying. And that's the fear from the north. We must rise up to say, no, enough is enough. We cannot continue if we want to grow. These same people who are against the tax, they travel to Saudi Arabia. Are they saying they are not paying tax in Saudi Arabia? They travel to Dubai, United Arab Emirates. They see what they use taxation to do in those places. People go to, Dubai every day. All those high-rise buildings, all those transformations you see there, they were heavily taxed by the individuals and corporate bodies, and they are using the money. So
let's
why should they,
time not our friend.
Let's
quickly wrap it up. It's so much. Let's just quickly look at the fact that
just a pity that you are bringing me late because I've been waiting all this while.
Bastanza, as regards the issues of the sexual escapades away from the financial infringement, which was initially being investigated for. Do you think it shows it's politically motivated? Can you hear me, Abidore?
They should not even pay tax for now. It is the rich who call themselves the rich, who have made this country to stupor, that should be paying tax heavily. Why should they take tax on beer, on alcohol in Lagos, and at the end of the month they will share it now across all the 36 states and including Abuja? Why? Each state should be allowed to take their tax and subject their tax to their people and use the money to, to develop the state and develop the region. And that's why I'm happy.
I think this is how much time is
on
going to allow us on today's edition of the program, The Desk. Sorry for the short time where we have to discuss these key issues, but we just had to take other stories. On the final note, what will be your final word?
Well, so much has been said. I love
Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
So we're wrapping up right now.
Yes, I'm looking forward to a nation where we have a system of government, leadership, and citizenship that comes together into one melting point on the basis of our shared destiny, on the basis of our collective interest, on the basis of national pride, on the basis of national goals and responsibility. Not the one that is forced, not the one that is coerced or compelled, but the one that is driven by inspiration, by love, all right, and by principles of equity and justice.
All right, so that's on that very patriotic note, we're going to call it a wrap on today's edition of the program, The Desk. Another way that we hope tomorrow will be much better, more time for us to look at issues from the patriotic point of view. My name is Anthony Momodi, saying big thank you for joining me on the program, and big thanks to the CEO of Global Leadership Commission in the person of Benjamin Alika, who joined me in the live studio, and also Jeffrey Abidoye, the Global President of Rebuild Nigeria 360, who joined me via Zoom. Good evening.